reaction to JB Bickerstaff. So he was on the Road Tripping podcast this past week with Richard Jefferson and Alec Clifton. And I do have some audio that we can play because something that he said, I've been talking about probably for a year, and I'm very intrigued to hear what you think about what JB Bickerstaff views Cade Cunningham as.
What excites you about Cade Cunningham or a guy like Jalen Duren?
I think both of them are extremely talented. Cade's size and his ability to get to his spot never gets sped up. You look at him, he's always even keel. He's one of those guys that you can tell his teammates just want to be around because he has the ability to make them better. And so, when you have a guy like that who can create his own in fourth quarters, make those types of plays with that size, like you can play him at 3 different positions if you wanted to. So he allows you.
So he went on to say that Cade could play up to 3 different positions. So my question is, would you be okay if JB Bickerstaff experimented with Cade playing shooting guard or small forward this upcoming season?
So if you would have asked me this last year, the answer would have been no, because effectively if Cade was playing off the ball last year, who does that mean bringing it up? Probably Killian. And I was not a Killian hater like some people. I was more of a Killian believer, but I just didn't think that that's someone who's worth taking the ball out of Cade's hands for. So if you're taking the ball out of Cade's hands and you're running him off more pin down screens, things like that to get to his spots, I would have to see it to believe in it, because I personally think that he's most effective just being a pure initiator, the guy who has the ball in his hands, making the decisions every single time up the floor. I guess it really just comes down to what it looks like. I'd have to see it. Because in that situation, who would be the initiator? Ivy, right? It would have to be. Who else on our team really has that capability? So maybe, I guess I'd be open to it, but I just have to see it. And as of right now, I feel like personally, Cade is most useful when he has the ball in his hands, when he's able to make all of the decisions, when he is the guy who is taking all of the heat from the defense, drawing the defense in. That's how I feel about him personally right now. Of course, there's always been camps of people who think that he's more of a 2 or a 3. I've never been there, especially considering the pieces we have around him. I thought when Monte Morris was here, I thought maybe that's someone who could set the table for him in a way that would make things interesting. But I just don't think we have the personnel to make it make sense right now. How do you feel about it?
I've always felt that he was more of a 2 than he was a 1. I have always thought that he had the vision and the passing ability to play point guard. And given his size, it being, I don't know, some days he's 6'6", other days he's 6'8". I don't know what it is. He's like a shapeshifter. Like you go on different sites, it's like, yeah, 6'8", no, 6'6", whatever. I like him more off ball, but I think I don't hate him at point guard. I mentioned like I wouldn't hate him kind of playing like a Jason Tatum role, Paul George role at the 3, because I think he has the scoring ability to play that role. But to your point, it's personnel based. The Pistons don't really have that personnel to have that luxury of Cade not having the ball in his hands and initiating the offense. Like theoretically, you could say Jaden Ivey could be that point guard, kind of just, drive to the lane, kick it out to Cade at playing shooting guard or small forward. I think it could work that way. But I think your biggest question I think a lot of fans would have is, can Jaden Ivey be an efficient point guard and not having like a high turnover rate, right? I think it's a lot of hypotheticals, but JB sees that there's a lot of versatility with him. He thinks he's more than just a point guard, and wouldn't surprise me if we see him in situations where Jaden Ivey's, bringing the ball up the court and, Cade's coming off maybe a dribble handoff screen and just like hitting a mid-range or hitting a 3. I think there's a lot of creative things that you can do with Cade Cunningham just because of his skill set and the way he can score the basketball at all 3 levels.
Yeah, definitely. And when you mentioned Tatum, it got me thinking, because as we were saying, it is very personnel based. If you somehow, for whatever reason, swap Tatum and Cade got to play with Drew Holiday and Derek White, all of a sudden this makes a lot more sense in my head, where he's getting looks, that Tatum gets. Like, that's the type of offense that you can plug him into, and I think he'd be able to do that. But we don't have a Derek White and we don't have a Drew Holiday to make it make sense in my head for him to go off the ball and take those dribble handoffs and pin down screens to get to his spots where I think he would be good for sure. But I just don't see lineups that we could currently make that make it make a whole lot of sense. But I know JB Bickerstaff mentioned that, and he's also mentioned things like he wants to keep one dynamic player on the floor, which reading between the lines feels like that he's saying that he's going to stagger Cade and Ivy. So maybe that's all hypothetical. But yeah, really the big takeaway is I just don't know who the ball would be in the hands of, because like, what are the other options there? Marcus Sasser? I mean,
you could get creative and say, hey, Sasser, we know you played some backup point guard at OTE. Your handle's not the tightest, but we know that you have that court vision. Because Sasser, like, low-key last year had some absolute dimes, and you're like, damn, okay, Sasser? Like, where'd that come from?
Wraparound passes. That's thinking outside of the box there. I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
I know some people are saying Sasser. I see Sasser more as a two guard. Like, the point guard experiment was the point guard experiment. I don't want to spend too much time on that because some people just – I'm telling you, man, Summer League, I thought Pistons fans would be, like, positive, excited basketball's back for, like, a week. But they're like, I never want to see Marcus Sasser play point guard again. I was like, wow, okay. Back to negative.
Yeah. No, we saw it in the Summer League, and that's that. We all watched the Summer League. I think Sasser is best be Marcus Sasser, which is a guy who, when he has the ball in his hands, he's going to work. He's looking to get to a step back. That's Marcus Sasser, you know?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like a Lou Williams type of view. I'm not comparing the two, but we're down 7. Like, I need like 8 to 10 points. Just like, get me back in the game. Like, I don't need you to try to be a point guard, because playing the point guard position when you really haven't played it a whole lot throughout your career, that's a lot to ask out of somebody. And I've always gotten on the Pistons of trying to reinvent the wheel, like play to his strengths, not something that is maybe a 3-year plan and you hope to develop it. And if you can turn into possibly like a backup point guard, that's another position he can play. Like, play to his strengths. Like, he's good at scoring. Like the game against Milwaukee when he went absolutely berserk early in the season, like that's Marcus Sasser at his peak.
Yep. What do you think about Duren being an initiator? How do you feel about that kind of stuff that we got little peeks at? Because that doesn't like effectively put Cade at the 2 on the paper or anything like that, but that does help him get more of the looks that you would maybe expect Cade to get in an off-ball role. You know, those plays where Duren would catch the ball high post and kind of either look for that back cut or, you know, hand the ball off to somebody else. I mean, he had a little bit of a different role this year in the offense than he did his last year, where he was allowed to pass a little bit more and things like that. How do you feel about that? I know that doesn't really put Cade at the 2, but it gives him some of those types of looks.
I think you can definitely get creative with Duren, because I think he's a skillful enough passer to maybe find a guy cutting to the basket, like you mentioned, or kicking it out when he's getting double teamed in the post. I don't know if his passing and his dribbling skills are good enough to kind of initiate, like a few years ago, someone had mentioned it. Chili just mentioned it in the YouTube comment section about having point Andre. So Andre Drummond was playing a lot of DHO his last few years under here in Detroit under Stan Van Gundy. And when he first started it, I'm just telling you, it was dreadful. Like, dribble handoff offenses, I think only 2 bigs can do it, and that's Sabonis and Jokic. Like, those are the 2 centers when you talk about DHOs for centers, like the most elite, you know, big man, if you will, to play that DHO. I think Duren can do it, just not on a, like, you know, throw him the ball like every time like he's Jokic. Maybe 5 to 10 plays, you kind of switch it up offensively, seeing if he can, you know, find Sasser cutting to the basket, or maybe Jaden Ivey's in the corner standing for 3 or something like that. I think you can definitely get creative with Duren, because I think he's more than just like a low post guy. I think there's some mid-range in there we haven't seen. I mean, he hit one over and beat it. Everyone was going crazy during the select stuff. There was a dunk on LeBron too that no one posted the highlight. Wonder why.
Did you see the Yabalus dunk getting photoshopped out yesterday, where they were photoshopping out LeBron?
Mm-hmm. Man, you don't mess with Clutch Sports, man. You get
black SUVs rolling up.
Yeah, straight up. You can't have Brown getting dunked on like that. Yeah, I guarantee you they made a call like Photoshop him out.
Yeah.